The Book of the Five Rings, a classic text on the Japanese way of the sword by Miyamoto Musashi. No sword. Being swordless does not necessarily mean you have to take your opponent's sword. It also does not mean making a show of sword snatching for your reputation. It is the swordless art of not getting killed when you have no sword. The basic intention is nothing like deliberately setting out to snatch a sword. It is not a matter of insistently trying to wrest away what is being deliberately kept from your grasp. Not grasping attempts to avoid having it taken away is also swordlessness. Someone who is intent upon not having his sword taken away forgets what he is opposed to and just tries to avoid having his sword taken away. Therefore, he will be unable to kill anyone. Not being killed oneself is considered victory. The principle is not to make an art of taking people's swords. It is learning to avoid being cut down by others when you have no sword yourself. Swordlessness is not the art of taking another sword. It is for the purpose of using all implements freely. When you are unarmed, if you can even take away another sword and make it your own, then what will not be useful in your hands? Even if you only have a folding fan, you can still prevail over someone with a sword. This is the aim of swordlessness. Suppose you are walking along with a bamboo cane, and someone draws a long sword and attacks you. You win if you take his sword away, even though you respond with only a cane. Or if you do not take the sword away, you win if you thwart him so he cannot cut you down. This attitude should be regarded as the basic idea of swordlessness. Swordlessness is not for the purpose of taking swords, nor for killing people. When an enemy insistently tries to kill you, that is when you should take his sword. The taking itself is not the original intention to start with. It is for the purpose of attaining an effective understanding of the margin of safety. This means gauging the distance between you and an enemy at which his sword will not hit you. If you know the distance at which you are out of range, you are not fearful of an opponent's striking sword. When your body is exposed to attack, then you actively think about this exposure. When you have no sword, as long as you are out of range of another sword, you cannot take it away. You have to be within striking range to take a sword. You have to expose yourself to being killed in order to take a sword away. Swordlessness is the attitude whereby you let others have the swords, while you engage them using your hands as your instruments. So since swords are no longer than hands, you have to get close to an adversary, within killing range, in order to be successful at this. It is necessary to distinguish the interplay of your opponent's sword in your hands. Then your adversary's sword overshoots your body, while you get underneath the hilt of the sword, aiming to arrest the sword. When the time comes, do not freeze into a fixed pattern. In any event, you cannot take away an opponent's sword unless you get right up close to him. Swordlessness is the foremost secret of this school. Physical posture, positioning of the sword, taking a stand, distance, movement, contrivance, striking, attacking, appearance and intention, all come from the attitude of swordlessness. So this is the essential I. Great potential and great function. Everything has body and function. For example, a bow is a body, while drawing, shooting, and hitting the mark are functions of a bow. A lamp is a body, light is its function. Water is a body, moisture is a function of water. An apricot tree is a body, fragrance and color are functions. A sword is a body, cutting and stabbing are functions. Therefore, potential is the body, while the existence of various capabilities manifesting outwardly from the potential is called function. Because an apricot tree has a body, flowers blossom from the body, giving off color and scent. In the same way, function resides within potential and works outside, striking, attacking, appearance and intention, aggressive and passive modes, the casting of various impressions, and so on, manifest external action because there is potential at the ready within. These are called function. Great is a word of praise. When we say great spirit, great incarnation, and great saint, the word great is an expression of praise. Great function appears because of great potential. When Zen monks are able to use their bodies freely and independently, harmonizing with truth and communing with truth, whatever they say and do, this is called great spiritual power, or great function of great potential. Spiritual powers and miraculous manifestation are not wonders produced by ghosts or spirits from outer space. These terms refer to working freely and independently whatever you do. All the many sword positions, appearances, concealing intentions, depictions, use of implements, leaping up and leaping down, grabbing a blade, kicking someone down, all sorts of actions are called great function when you attain independence beyond what you have learned. Unless you always have the potential within, the great function will not appear. Even when you are sitting indoors, first look up, then look left and right, to see if there is anything that might happen to fall from above. When you are seated by a door or a panel, take note of whether it might not fall over. If you happen to be in attendance near nobles of high rank, be aware of whether something unexpected might happen. Even when you are going in and out of a door, do not neglect attention to the going out and going in, always keeping aware. All of these are examples of potential. When marvels come forth immediately at naturally appropriate times, because the potential is always there within, this is called great function. When the potential is unripe, however, the function does not manifest. In all paths, when concentration builds up and exercise is repeated, potential matures and great function emerges. When potential freezes, stiffens up, and remains inflexible, it is not functional. When it matures, it expands throughout the body, so that great function emerges through the hands and feet, eyes and ears. When you meet people with this great potential and great function, martial arts using only what you have learned will not even enable you to raise a hand. Glared at once by the eyes of someone with the great potential, you will be so captivated by the look that you will forget to draw your sword, just standing there, doing nothing. If you delay for even the time it takes to blink an eye, you will have lost already. When a cat glares at it, a mouse falls down from the ceiling, captivated by the look in the cat's eyes. The mouse forgets even to run, and falls. Encountering someone with the great potential is like a mouse running into a cat. There is a Zen saying that goes, when the great function appears, it does not keep to guidelessness. This means that people with great potential and great function are not at all constrained by learning or rules. In all fields of endeavor, there are things to learn and there are rules. People who have attained supreme mastery are beyond them. They act freely and independently. To act independently, outside of rules, is called personifying great potential and great function. Potential means to be thinking attentively of everything. Therefore, when that intently thought potential becomes stiff and frozen and hard, then you are entangled by potential and thus are not free. This is because potential is immature, unripe. If you build up effective exercise, potential will mature, expanding throughout the body, working freely and independently. This is called the great function. Potential is mental energy. It is called potential according to the situation. Mind is the inside. Mental energy is the entrance. Since the mind is the master of the whole body, it should be understood as that which resides within. Mental energy is at the door, working outside for its master, the mind. The division of the mind into good and bad comes from potential, as it goes out from states of potential to good and to bad. Mental energy that is kept watchfully at the door is called potential. When people open a door and go outside, whether they do good, do evil, or even work marvels, is due to the ideas in their minds before opening the door. Thus, this potential is something very important. If this potential is working, it emerges outside and the great function manifests. In any case, if you understand it as mental energy, you will not be off. It is called differently according to where it is. Even so, just because we speak of the inside and the entrance, there are no fixed definitions of inside and entrance somewhere in the body. We speak of inside and entrance by way of metaphor. For example, when people speak, the beginning of their speech could be called the entrance, while the end could be called the inside. In the words themselves, there are no specific locations of inside and entrance. Mind and objects. A verse from St. Manora says, "Mind turns along with myriad situations. Its turning point is truly recondite." This verse refers to a Zen secret. I cite it here because this idea is quintessential in martial arts. People who do not study Zen will find it quite hard to comprehend. In the context of martial arts, myriad conditions means all the actions of adversaries. The mind turns with each and every action. For example, when an opponent raises his sword, your mind turns to the sword. If he whirls to the right, your mind turns to the right. If he whirls to the left, your mind turns to the left. This is called turning along with myriad situations. The turning point is truly recondite. This is the eye of martial arts. When the mind does not leave any traces in any particular place, but turns to what lies ahead, with the past dying out like a wake of a boat, not lingering at all, this should be understood as the turning point being truly recondite. To be recondite is to be subtle and imperceptible. This means the mind not lingering on any particular point. If your mind stops and stays somewhere, you will be defeated in martial arts. If you linger where you turn, you will be crushed. Since the mind has no form or shape, it is basically invisible. When it clings and lingers, the mind is visible as much in that condition. It is like raw milk. Dye it red and it becomes red. Dye it violet and it becomes violet. The human mind also manifests visibly when it is attracted and fixated by things. If you are attracted to boys, eventually people will notice. When the thought is within, the impression appears outwardly. When watching an opponent's moves carefully, if you let your mind linger there, you will lose at martial arts. The verse cited above is quoted to illustrate this point. I omit the last two lines of the verse. For Zen study, it is necessary to know the whole verse. In martial arts, the first two are enough. Martial arts and Buddhism. There are many things in martial arts that accord with Buddhism and correspond to Zen. In particular, there is repudiation of attachment and avoidance of lingering on anything. This is the most urgent point. Not lingering is considered quintessential. A courtesan wrote this poem in response to one by the Buddhist priest Zagyo. If you ask as a leaver of home, I simply think you should not let your mind linger on a temporary dwelling. In martial arts, we should deeply savor the last lines and see if we are not like this. No matter what kind of secret transmission you obtain and what move you employ, if your mind lingers on that move you will have lost in martial arts. It is essential to practice an attitude of not dwelling on anything, be it the actions of an opponent, your own skills, or slashing and stabbing. Yes and no. Master Longji said to a group, the pillar of affirmation does not see the pillar. The pillar of denial does not see the pillar. Having gotten rid of affirmation and denial altogether, attain understanding within affirmation and denial. This story is to be applied to all arts. A certain teacher told it to me, and I thought of its application to martial arts, so I record it here. As for the pillar of affirmation and the pillar of denial, this seems that judgments of right and wrong, good and bad, stand firmly in the heart, affirmation and denial being like pillars standing. Insofar as keeping in mind something that is right will become onerous all of a sudden, it will be even more onerous if it is something wrong. These judgments of good and bad are sicknesses of the mind. As long as these sicknesses do not leave the mind, whatever you do is not good. Therefore, the saying goes that we should attain understanding within affirmation and denial after having gotten rid of affirmation and denial. This means that after having detached from affirmation and denial, rising from the midst of affirmation and denial to the supreme state. The I detached from affirmation and denial is truly hard to attain, even if you have understood Buddhism. Truth and untruth. Even truth is to be relinquished, to say nothing of untruth. In this passage, truth means really true teaching. Even really true teaching should not be kept in the mind once you have become completely enlightened. Thus, even truth is to be relinquished. After you have realized true teaching, if you keep it in your chest, it pollutes your heart. How much more so does untruth? Since even truth is to be relinquished, to say nothing of untruth, this should not be kept in your heart. That is what this passage says. Having seen all true principles, do not keep any of them in your chest. Let go of them cleanly, making your heart empty and open, and do what you do in an ordinary and unconcerned state of mind. You can hardly be called a maestro of martial arts unless you reach this stage. I speak of martial arts because military science is my family business. But this principle is not limited to martial arts. All arts and sciences and all walks of life are like this. When you employ martial arts, unless you get rid of the idea of martial arts, it is a sickness. When you shoot, unless you get rid of the idea of shooting, it is a sickness of archery. If you just duel and shoot with a normal mind, You should have no trouble with the bow, and you should be able to wield the sword freely. The normal mind, not upset by anything, is good for everything. If you lose the normal mind, your voice will quiver whatever you try to say. If you lose the normal mind, your hand will quiver if you try to write something in front of others. The normal mind keeps nothing in the heart, but lightly relinquishes the past, so that the heart is empty and therefore is the normal mind. People who read Confucian books, failing to understand this principle of emptying the mind, only concern themselves with seriousness. Seriousness is not the ultimate realization, it is the training in the first couple of steps.